Paris Studio Apartment Tour: How 1920s Furniture Maximizes Small Spaces. Welcome back, everyone, to my little corner of the world here in Paris. We often dream of the Parisian lifestyle, coffee on a balcony, strolling along the Seine. But the reality of actually living here, especially in the older, historic districts, often means grappling with incredibly tight square footage. It is a bijou existence, to put it politely. Today, I want to welcome you inside my very cramped studio to share a secret I've discovered. The answer to modern small space living isn't necessarily modern furniture. It's actually looking back a century to the clever elegance of the 1920s. Let me show you how history can save us from clutter. When I say this studio is cramped, I mean every single inch is a negotiation. For those of you watching in the US or Australia, accustomed to sprawling suburban homes, this might seem like little more than a walk-in closet. The challenge here isn't just fitting necessary items in, it's doing so without feeling suffocated by your own belongings. We need our homes to be sanctuaries, especially as we get older, not obstacle courses. The goal is to stop fighting the small dimensions and instead embrace them like a tailored suit, snug, but perfectly fitted. Why turn to the 1920s? Think about that era. It was a time right after the heaviness of the Victorian period and just before the mass production of the mid-century. Designers in Paris during the 20s, the Art Deco period and early modernism, were obsessed with two things: streamlined elegance and supreme functionality. They didn't have space for bulky ornamentation. Every curve had a purpose. They were masters of creating furniture that felt substantial and luxurious but didn't physically dominate a room. That philosophy is exactly what a tiny apartment needs today. Before we look at the furniture, we have to address the mindset. In a space this size, clutter isn't just messy, it's emotionally draining. I've found that as I've entered my 50s, my tolerance for visual noise has plummeted. I need calm. When you fill a tiny room with cheap, temporary solutions, it feels chaotic. But when you curate a few beautiful, historic pieces that have stood the test of time, the room feels intentional rather than accidental. It shifts from "I can't afford a bigger place" to "I choose to live beautifully right here." Let's begin in what passes for my living room. The centerpiece is this wonderful velvet settee, which draws heavy inspiration from 1920s Parisian club chairs but scaled down. Notice what it lacks: giant, puffy rolled arms or a deep, slouchy back that eats up floor space. The 1920s silhouette is upright, slender, and tailored. It offers comfort without the bulk. It allows light to pass around it, and because it sits slightly higher on tapered legs, you can see the floor beneath it, which trick the eye into thinking the room is larger than it actually is. Look over here at this small side table. It's a genuine piece from the late 20s, featuring polished veneer and a small brass trim. This isn't just decoration, it's a strategic tool for a small space. The designers of that era loved lacquer, polished woods, glass, and metallics. Why? Because they reflect light. In a cramped apartment that might not get blazing sunshine all day, having furniture surfaces that bounce light around corners is essential. It adds a shimmering depth that matte, modern flat-pack furniture simply cannot replicate. The 1920s saw the rise of the skyscraper, and that upward movement translated into furniture design. Instead of spreading out, we go up. This tall, very narrow shelving unit I use for books and display is a prime example. It draws the eye upward toward the ceiling, emphasizing the height of the room rather than its narrow width. It uses a footprint of barely 12 inches square, yet it holds a tremendous amount. It's about capitalizing on the air rights in your apartment that usually go unused. In a studio, nothing can do just one job. The 1920s were pioneers of convertible furniture, though often in a more subtle way than today's Murphy beds. My coffee table, for instance, is an antique nesting set. Most days, it's a single compact unit holding my tea. But when a friend pops by, I slide out the two smaller tables underneath, and suddenly we have surface area for an aperitif. It's elegant expansion on demand, and when tucked away, it takes up almost no visual space. Moving the 3 feet over to my kitchenette area, you'll see how the vintage charm tackles functional chaos. A modern, fitted kitchen would have felt too heavy here. Instead, I've used a freestanding 1920s wooden sideboard as my main prep station and storage. It has a soul that modern cabinetry lacks. By using a piece of real furniture in the kitchen zone, it blurs the lines, making the kitchen feel like part of the living space rather than a sterile utility corner. Dining tables are usually the first casualties in a tiny studio. You just don't have room for a permanent six-seater. My solution is this exquisite little bistro table with a cast iron base and a marble top, very typical of Parisian cafes in the interwar period. It's heavy, stable, yet visually light because of the pedestal base, no table legs to bump your knees into. It's just big enough for a dinner plate, a glass of wine, and a book. It turns a cramped meal into a romantic moment. There is something incredibly comforting about living with old things in a small space. When you are forced to be up close and personal with your furniture, and believe me, I am always up close to my furniture here, you want surfaces that tell a story. The gentle wear on the arm of a 1920s chair, or the slight tarnishing on a brass lamp base, adds a layer of humanity. Brand new, perfect items can feel sterile in a tiny room. Vintage pieces with patina feel like old friends that don't judge your lack of square footage. The 1920s designers were very clever about corners. They didn't believe in wasted space. I found a small, triangular corner cabinet from that era that fits perfectly into a nook by the window that was previously useless dead space. It now holds my glassware and keys. These niche pieces of furniture, designed for specific awkward spots, are almost impossible to find in modern big box stores, which cater to standard, square rooms. Hunting down these vintage problem solvers is key. I don't have a bedroom, I have a sleeping nook. To avoid the room looking like a permanent bedroom, I utilize a daybed frame that is stylistically very Art Deco. During the day, dressed with tailored bolsters and throws that match the 1920s color palette, think muted teals and mustard yellows, it acts as extra seating. At night, it's a proper bed. The rigid structure of the vintage-style frame keeps it looking tidy, unlike a modern futon which often looks messy no matter what you do to it. Closet space is non-existent here. Modern wardrobes are often terribly deep and bulky. Instead, I use a shallow, tall French armoire from the late 20s for my clothes. The craftsmanship is superb. The doors are thinner yet stronger than modern equivalents, and the internal configuration was designed for a time when people had fewer, but better quality clothes. It forces me to curate my wardrobe, keeping only what I love and wear, which is a liberating practice at this stage of life. Even the tiny water closet benefits from this approach. A pedestal sink, while lacking under-cabinet storage, opens up the floor space incredibly well in a bathroom the size of a telephone booth. To compensate for storage, I use a small, wall-mounted 1920s mirrored medicine cabinet made of nickel and glass. Its slim profile doesn't jut out into the room, and again, the mirrored surface helps bounce light around the tightest space in the apartment. This brings me to my core opinion point for this video. While I appreciate the accessibility of modern flat pack furniture, for a truly small space, it often fails. Modern particle board is thick and blocky to maintain structural integrity. 1920s furniture, built from solid woods and metals by true craftsmen, could afford to be much thinner and lighter while being stronger. You save actual inches of living space simply because the materials used a century ago were superior and didn't require bulk for strength. For my audience aged 50 and above, I think we share a similar perspective on value. We are done with fast furniture that we have to replace every 5 years. Investing in a 1920s piece is just that, an investment. These pieces have already survived 100 years. They will easily survive another 100. In a tiny apartment, you only need a few items. It is far better to have 4 exquisite, functional vintage pieces than 10 mediocre modern ones that clutter your life. You don't need to be in Paris to find this style. The 1920s influence was global. Look at local estate sales, antique auctions, and even online marketplaces in the US, UK, or Canada. Look for keywords like Art Deco transition, Streamlined, or Jazz Age furniture. Ignore the upholstery if it's tattered, focus on the bones of the piece. Is the frame slender? Are the legs tapered? Does it have a dual function? If the structure is sound and sleek, it's a candidate for your small space. Furthermore, the process of finding these pieces adds to the richness of your home. When you live in a tiny apartment, every object should bring you joy. There is no joy in buying a generic shelving unit right off a pallet. But there is immense joy in hunting down a specific 1920s sewing table that happens to be the perfect dimensions for your laptop desk. The story of how you found the piece becomes part of the fabric of your home. To conclude our tour, I hope you see that a cramped apartment doesn't have to feel like a cage. By looking back to the design principles of the 1920s, elegance, verticality, multifunctionality, and quality materials, we can transform these challenging spaces into jewel boxes. It's about respecting the constraint of the space and choosing furniture that works with it, not against it. Thank you for joining me in my little Parisian studio today. Until next time, happy arranging.